So we've been asked a question today of three functions, A, B, and C. I'll show you each of them. Here's A, here's B, which is supposed to be an ellipse, but artist I'm not. And C is some kind of weird polynomial here. And the question is, are these a function, and give the domain and the range? Okay? So the definition of a function is that for every member of the domain, which is typically going to be X, your independent variable, that's your domain, there is one and only one member of the range, which will be Y, or your dependent variable. So in other words, for every X that I choose, there's only one Y value. And typically we test these by using the vertical line test. Now, let me explain what that means. You say, okay, well, if I draw a vertical line, it can only hit in 1 point. And what do I see here? It hits in 2 points. If I draw this vertical line, it hits in... This violates the definition of a function, because if you pick a value for X, let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are 2 values of Y. There are 2 range values. The definition of a function says for each member of the domain there is 1 member of the range. Okay? So if there's more than 1, i.e. 2, what's the answer? Not a function. Okay? And then the other question they asked us was for the domain and the range. Okay? So let's look at that. The domain of this function is going to be the X. Well, it starts here and goes to the right and never ends because of these arrow points. So this point is 1, 2, 3 on the x-axis. So the domain would be 3 to infinity. And if you write this in interval notation, a square bracket means that it can be equal to, and a round bracket means it cannot be equal to, because you cannot equal infinity. Well, how about the range? Now we're looking in the y direction, so up and down. Well, this is going off and to the right, but as it's going to the right, it's also going up. And this is going off to the right and down. There's nothing that will stop this picture from continuing to go up and continuing to go down. And so the range is all real numbers, or negative infinity to infinity. Okay? Question B, we've got a fun little problem here. We've got an ellipse, or what's supposed to be an ellipse, which is a stretched circle, stretched in one direction. And it asks, is this a function? What's the domain? What's the range? And again, I can rely on the vertical line test. If I pick a point and I draw a line, I notice that it hits in 2 locations. The definition of a function says if you pick an x value, it should only have 1 y value. And I have 1 up here and 1 down here. So to answer the first question, this is not a function. Okay? Second and third question, domain and range. What is the domain? Well, we're looking at x. Well, the smallest x value I see is at x equals 0. And then I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The largest x value I see is x equals 8. So this goes from 0 to 8. And it touches 0 and it touches 8. So I can put square brackets here. Okay? How about the range? Well, it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this goes from -4 to +6. It touches both of those points, and so that would be our range. Okay? And again, all we're doing is, if this were on nice, neat, cute graph paper, we would count how far does it go in the y, how far does it go in the x. Because this is an elliptical function, or a circular type function, when it gets to this 0, it's going to loop back around, so it never goes smaller than that or larger than that in the x or the y directions. Okay? Third and final one here, 3 questions again. The domain, the range, and is it a function? Well, if you look at this, the vertical line test, pick an x value, 1 point for the y, pick an x value, 1 point for the y. And if you were to go through and draw vertical lines everywhere on this graph, you would only hit the graph at one place every time you draw a vertical line. So is this a function? Yes, this is a function. Okay, it is a function. Now let's look at the domain and the range. Domain, we're looking at the x-axis. Okay, and when I look at the x-axis, what I see is it goes down and to the left, keeps going, so it's going to keep going to the left, and it goes up and to the right, so it's going to keep going to the right. So it's going to keep going to the left, and it's going to keep going to the right, and it's never going to stop. So the domain would be all real numbers or negative infinity to infinity. The range is the y values, and it looks like, well, this is going down and to the left, so it's going down, and it's not going to stop. This end is going up, and it's not going to stop. So what is the range? Also, all real numbers or negative infinity to infinity. So there's the domain and the range of three equations and answering the question whether they're functions or not. Okay? If you have any questions about any of these, please do come see me.